Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 comic books and marketing expert covering Bud Light. Dylan Mulvaney is blasting Bud Light and tearfully breaking their silence after destroying the multi-billion-dollar brand. Literally, Dylan Mulvaney is angry at Bud Light because Bud Light somehow didn't support Dylan Mulvaney enough. Now, I have some serious problems with the Bud Light people. I don't like how they handled the situation they created with Dylan Mulvaney. I don't like how they're handling the situation now. I don't like how they're treating their wholesalers. And I particularly don't like how they're not being honest with investors, customers, distributors, with where the brand is at now. They really could just actually do that and they would be able to move on from this situation, and I would have to find other subjects to do videos about, which I'm willing to do. However, Dylan Mulvaney is an absolute out of control, dangerous narcissist. Let's get into the story. Before we do, please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate you guys. I'm trying to get to 25,000 subscribers, so if you can subscribe, please do subscribe. By now, you're familiar with who Dylan Mulvaney is. Dylan Mulvaney is the transgender influencer that was taken on by Bud Light to go ahead and make their brand more inclusive, introduce younger people to it, and somehow make the brand be more successful. Well, Dylan Mulvaney was pretty quiet about the whole situation of causing over $20 billion worth of damage. I count it to be over $30 billion worth of damage to the stock value of Bud Light, which is threatening the employees of Anheuser-Busch. It's threatened the wholesalers' employees. They're all losing money. It's created a very bad situation. Wholesalers, sales reps, for example, specifically in Florida, are each losing around $2,000 per month in lost commission sales that they cannot afford to lose. That's the background. So Dylan Mulvaney has made an Instagram post with their 1.8 million following on Instagram explaining how they feel about the situation. Quote, "I love beer and I always have." Dylan Mulvaney breaks their silence on a $20 billion Bud Light fiasco to excoriate the troubled brand for not standing by Dylan Mulvaney, and then claims they lost the can that was the custom can that was given to Dylan as a gift. Dylan Mulvaney was given this can with their face on it, and that was shown on video. That was described as a gift that was made for Dylan Mulvaney. It wasn't described as a can that was supposed to be used for promotional purposes. Anheuser-Busch has not been open about the situation and discussed the situation about how Dylan Mulvaney really came to be involved with their Bud Light brand. However, Dylan Mulvaney was a Bud Light partner since February of 2023. The first promotion was not April 1st, 2023. We found that out because of Ted Cruz's research into the relationship between Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney and their TikTok audience, which was a lot of those followers underage. So why was Dylan Mulvaney showing off that can that was a gift with their face on it? I don't know, but I would not be surprised if Dylan was never authorized to show that can. Perhaps it wasn't explained, perhaps it was a misunderstanding, but when you look at whose fault all of this is, yes, it's the fault of the Bud Light people, but it's of course also the fault of Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan Mulvaney has that audience of 1.8 million people on Instagram, many followers on TikTok. Dylan Mulvaney could have done a follow-up post explaining, hey, it was just a gift. It was one can. I really didn't even have permission to show it. Don't think that I'm the new face of Bud Light. I'm just someone who loves the beer. They could have said something like that and helped out the brand and helped themselves out and not been in all this controversy. But people who love attention, who need to have the world focused on them, will do anything to get that attention. And that looks like that's the situation that we're in. Transgender influencer Dylan Mulvaney has slammed Bud Light for hiring them for their disastrous campaign, saying they failed to publicly stand by Dylan after the backlash. The 26-year-old posted a video on Instagram addressing the debacle, which has since seen Anheuser-Busch lose more than $20 billion in market capitalization since the advertisement came out for March Madness. Speaking to their 1.8 million followers, I was waiting for the brand to reach out to me, but they never did. I have been scared ever since to leave my house. Dylan has been scared to leave Dylan's house. Well, did you catch this from People magazine? Dylan Mulvaney wows in a crystal-covered gown for Tony Awards debut. This is my Super Bowl, y'all. This is a very big night for me. I really wanted to get back into theater, the influencer said in an Instagram video. Okay, so this is Dylan Mulvaney at the Tony Awards. If you recall, with Tony the Tiger creating an opportunity for another boycott of a classic brand where people were saying, you know, they don't want a children's character promoting cereal around Dylan Mulvaney, promoting it to their children. Lovely crystal dress that Dylan is wearing right there. Have to admit that. Okay, so scared to leave the house that, oh my gosh, they had to go to this massive awards show and get covered by People magazine. I mean, how much more attention would someone possibly need? What is the narcissistic personality disorder? I'm not a doctor. I haven't sat down and done any special evaluation on Dylan Mulvaney. I'm just saying it's looking like Dylan Mulvaney really needs a little bit more attention than the average person. Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. They need to seek too much attention and want people to admire them. People with this disorder may lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others, such as the people that were affected by this Bud Light boycott. It's not even a boycott, it's a permanent rebranding because of the attention, because Bud Light didn't respond, because Dylan Mulvaney didn't respond and say, hey, this was just one can. They're not making me the new face of their beer. It was just something to celebrate my 365 days of girlhood. That's what Bud Light has said, and that does seem accurate. It's just that Bud Light won't actually stand up and explain what's been going on because they're too afraid of the LGBT community. Truth doesn't really hurt. Truth is always a good thing, and it does solve a lot of problems. How do you know you're dealing with a narcissist? Let's take a look at this, and then we'll get back to the article. Appears to be very social. Seeks people who are kind yet vulnerable. Very jealous and deeply insecure. A control freak. Induces shame to make you feel worthless. Doesn't take responsibility. Plays victim. Addicted to anything that is superficial. Pathological liar. Appears to be very charming. Ignores what you feel. Isolates you from others. Perfect manipulators makes you question your own reality. So let's get back to reality and go over this article. Quote, for a company to hire a trans person and then not publicly stand by them is worse than not hiring a trans person at all. Well, as far as hiring Dylan Mulvaney, yes, it was tragic for Bud Light, but it was tragic for all the distributors and all the store owners that got stuck dealing with this ridiculous controversy. Later Thursday, Anheuser-Busch issued its own statement that didn't address Mulvaney by name on their claims, but stressed that they remain committed to the programs and partnerships they have forged over decades with organizations across a number of communities, including those in the LGBT community. Quote, the privacy and safety of our employees and our partners is always our top priority. As we move forward, we will focus on what we do best, brewing great beer for everyone and earning our place in moments that matter to our consumers, a spokesperson said. The company's mention of employees comes 2 days after Anheuser-Busch denied that they'd fired 2 of the marketing executives behind the debacle involving Mulvaney. The Daily Caller reported on Tuesday that the beer giant officially fired Group Vice President of Marketing Daniel Blake and Bud Light Marketing Vice President Alyssa Heinerschied, citing text messages with an unknown regional marketing leader at the company. In a statement to Daily Mail, a spokesperson for Anheuser-Busch said both of those executives were on a leave of absence. And part of Dylan Mulvaney's complaint here is that, hey, when all of this controversy was going on, nobody got back to me. Nobody followed up with me to make sure I was okay. Well, that's because the vice president in charge of Bud Light, the first woman to get the opportunity since the company started Bud Light in 1982, was removed from their position, had to go on a leave of absence because of this absurd promotion. That's why she didn't call you. And then you'd wonder, well, why didn't your boss call me? Everybody got a boss. Yeah, we all do got a boss. Her boss was Daniel Blake. Daniel Blake also had to go on a leave of absence because of approving this absurd promotion with Dylan Mulvaney in the first place. So that's why no one got in touch with Dylan Mulvaney. It wasn't because Dylan Mulvaney wasn't cared about and wasn't felt to be a fragile, transgender, wonderful child that somebody had to adopt. It was because there was no one left at the company to even call Dylan Mulvaney, because that's how bad the promotion was. Dylan Mulvaney really has set an example of this is why you have to be very careful about who you do business with and who you work with. You can't predict how your relationships are going to turn out when you work with people. So you have to rely on history. You have to rely on people who can make recommendations and say, yes, this person's good. You can rely on them. They will be professional and they will take care of their end of the bargain each time this situation happens. Dylan Mulvaney did not need to be taking an opportunity to say, oh, now let me strike out at Bud Light and see if I can get them to say or do something for me and maybe write me another check. Because Bud Light came out and said, we're going to support the LGBT community, and they're just trying to keep the business together. Bud Light is a permanently damaged brand, but Bud Light is not a company that should have been in business with Dylan Mulvaney in the first place. And they need to get a little bit more serious about how they're going to handle their relationship with Dylan Mulvaney. They may need to write Dylan a check for $1 million to shut up and go away. Because Dylan Mulvaney, with that huge social media presence, has an ability to, in the space of 5 to 15 seconds, put out social media posts that will cause another couple of $1 billion worth of damage to Bud Light. That's a situation they need to get under control. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. Do you think Dylan Mulvaney was right to be blasting Bud Light for not reaching out to Dylan and making Dylan feel better about a bad situation that Dylan had a big hand in creating? Or do you feel like I do? Dylan Mulvaney had no business blaming Bud Light for a bad situation that didn't work out for anyone, and really ought to have been a little bit more professional and filled with empathy to try to fix the situation any way possible. Because, hey, if you're in a situation and a situation goes bad and you have a way where you can contribute to the situation getting worked out, why would you not do that? Why would you not try to build a bridge instead of creating a scene publicly to create more problems for the company that you already created so many problems for? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Always love to see your ideas. Really appreciate you. Please be sure you are subscribed to the channel. Click the bell for notifications. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you again soon with another video. And if I don't see you, I will miss you.